I say manoeuvrability.
Oh, it's unreal.
Oh, jeepers. Jeepers.
He's dropped a J-bomb. He's dropped a J-bomb. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome along to another review from us, and as you may be already able to tell, it is JCB's new 532.60 AgriSuper Loadall, and this is the one that is now fitted with the firm's dual-tech variable transmission. So that's the one that's a half hydro, half power shift affair, but we'll talk a lot more about that as we go on later on in the video. And as it is a Series 3 machine as well, it also gets the firm's Command Plus cab, which I've got to say is looking pretty swanky already, straight from the offset. But like I say, again, we'll go into a lot more detail as we get through this review. Now, as ever, for this review, we'll be getting stuck into all sorts of jobs, as usual. Mucking out, bit of bedding, bit of feeding. And then what I thought we would do for this particular review is kind of split it in half, really. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to have a bash on it for a little bit, have a little explore, some of the new features, some of the new functions, things like that, have a talk about that, what we think. And then what we'll do, we'll hand it over to our tame beef and dairy farmer, Mr. Andrew Core. We'll let him have a play with it as well, and he can then give us his flavour of kind of what he thinks about the performance side of things, really. So that's the plan, all that to come. Right now, like I say, I'm going to have a bash on and see what I can find. Right, so a few headline figures for you about this machine. So it has a 6.22 metre lift height. It's got a 3.2 tonne lift capacity. This AgriSuper model, with it being the Super, it is 130 horsepower. That comes from a 4.8 litre 4-cylinder JCB diesel max engine, and like we said already, that is married to the firm's own dual-tech VT transmission, which is 40k. Now, as with most JCB Loadalls, you can get the 532.60 in a couple of specs. So the base spec is the Agri model, which I think was actually originally launched at Agritechnica in about 2019. And then along came this model, which is the AgriSuper. And then this one was introduced, I think it was the middle of 2021. So fairly fresh out the box, you could say. Now, there are a few differences between the two spec. I think this particular model, it's got automatic boom suspension. You also get a few extra options in terms of LED lights and limited slip differential in the axles. But the main difference between the two is the horsepower rating. So the Agri, that is 109 horsepower, and then this AgriSuper, it jumps up to 130 horsepower. So we got plenty of GGs with this one. And then the other big difference, as we've already alluded to already, is the difference in transmission. So with that Agri machine, you get a 4-speed power shift, and then with this AgriSuper, we've got that very clever half and half hydro, half power shift gearbox, what they're calling dual tech VT. So that's what this one has got. Now you're probably wondering, what's the price difference between the two? Well, as of about February 2022, when this was filmed, the Agri retails at about £80,000, thereabout. I know prices are kind of sort of all over the place at this current time here in February 2022. And then the AgriSuper, like I say, with that dual tech VT transmission, that jumps up to about £95,000 retail. Right, let's have a little bit of transmission chat about this dual tech VT. So if you've never heard of it, basically what it does, it effectively combines the best of both worlds in terms of a hydro and a power shift. So you could say the bottom half of the transmission is the hydro element. So that works between 0 and about 19 kph. So basically what you get at that point is basically you got your accurate handling at that point, your ease of use as well, particularly around the yard, because it is just basically rev and go. And then like I say, once you get above 19k, the power shift kicks in, and then you've got 3 power shift gears above that, and then that takes you all the way up to 40k. And then in terms of its part that it plays, as in the power shift, I suppose you could say that's kind of good for the pulling and the pushing side of things, really. Particularly if you're doing a bit of road work or extended field work or something like that, that's where the power shift comes into play. But in terms of performance, like I say, we'll get Andrew's opinion on that once we get around to him, because he's been having a right good blast on it. Now, as this is a Series 3 machine, Series 3 Loadall, it is one of the latest machines, obviously. And with that comes this, really, I've got to say, a rather nice Command Plus cab. I've got to say, it does feel like it's come on a long way since its predecessor. Couple of key updates and standout features, really. You've got this, this one-piece glass now that comes up and kind of over your head. Really helps with visibility, especially when you're lifting the loader, well, the loader out up in the air. And you've got these angled interior bars which really help with visibility. The layout is completely changed. It's much more refined. I would say it's less clutter. It's a really clean design layout. And you've got the kind of, suppose, the JCB standard buttons now that you find in pretty much all of its machines as well. So you get that sort of proper family feel to it as well. Brand new screen as well, which is effectively your dash, and with that screen you can flick through it and do all the machine setup as well. So just a little dial here. So simple things like selecting the steering mode, you can do that through there. And then, like I say, yeah, you got all your machine information. Select that, back up there, machine settings, stuff like that. So you can do all that through there, and it's just a very clean layout, a really clean design. And then when you're at the home page there, you can just see all the all the machine vitals, obviously, your fuel temp, speed, engine RPM, and some of the functions that's activated. So such as the auto boom suspension, we've got that turned on at the moment, giving us a little bit of extra comfort. So yeah, really like that. That's really smart, is that. And then the other major thing is this steering column, which you may recognise like from the fast tracks and the loading shovels now as well. And it just makes life a lot easier when you're jumping in and out. It's easy. It's a lot easier to set up than it was before. You haven't got that stupid little handle under the steering column, which normally ended up snapping off anyway, and you ended up having to carry a bloody spanner around with you. So it is much nicer, much easier, and when you're jumping in and out, it's just away like that, and then back to the position, and you just adjust it with that there, put it in the position you like, and then in, out like that, and it is much nicer, got to be said. And the other thing that's really noticeable in this cab as well, it's a really nice lofty sort of position. Now granted, that may be a bad thing for some traditional buildings, it might be a bit too tall for those, but you know, aside from that, it does mean you're sat up quite high. You literally can see each corner of the machine. It's got a really short arse on it, and you can see down to each corner. There's no exhaust stack in the way. The bonnet on the right hand side just falls away from you. It is really, really good visibility on this. But we'll get Andrew's opinion on that later on as well. See what he thinks, what it's like compared to the Merlot and the Manitou, which I'm sure he's got an opinion on. Other really good bits of this cab layout, which you might be able to see off this camera here, is the joystick is integrated obviously into this armrest, which moves with the seat, which I always like on machines. It just gives you that little bit more comfort, and it just everything just down this right hand side all just sits in your hand. So there we go, that's it from me for this little bit. I'm now going to hand it over to Andrew and we'll see what he thinks of it.